Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'll try that again. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Perfect. My name is Ariel Clemmer. It's my honor to serve as chair of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to the 2023 Adams Award ceremony. I would like to extend a special welcome to this year's 4 award recipients, attorneys Devin A. Cohen, Scott G. Ofrias, Doreen M. Rochelle, and Western New England University School of Law student Sarah Sam Jogu. I would also like to welcome Chief Justice Kimberly Budd and thank her for carving out time in her very busy schedule to participate in today's program. The Adams Award ceremony is always one of the best events of the year, in part because no matter what is going on in the world, hearing about the service of our Adams Award recipients is bound to be uplifting and motivating. Many folks would also say the same about the act of doing pro bono service themselves. Therefore, while we are here to celebrate the extraordinary pro bono service of these 4 honorees, one not so hidden agenda from today is to give them a platform to tell their stories so that many of you will be similarly inspired to become engaged or more engaged in providing pro bono service in the coming year or years ahead. As I wrap up my second year as chair, I am encouraged both by the challenges that we have overcome in recent years and for what lies ahead. Among other things, our committee is currently focused on collecting data and information about pro bono service on the ground across the Commonwealth so that we can bend the arc even further towards access to justice. We have been comparing our Massachusetts systems with other states so that we may continue to be at the forefront of pro bono across the nation. Next year is our committee's 25th anniversary. So please be on the lookout in the coming months for information about a wonderful celebration already being planned for next October that will take a look back 25 years and reflect how far we've come and where we still need to go. And now, as it seems more often than not in these tumultuous times, it is particularly important that we are able to pause and take a few minutes to celebrate those who have selflessly provided hundreds of hours of pro bono service over the past year in an effort to provide access to justice for as many individuals as possible. We are also here today to recognize and thank all of the new members of the Supreme Judicial Court's honor roll. These attorneys, legal organizations, and law students have also donated many hours of pro bono service and play a critical role in our efforts to increase access to justice across Massachusetts. As has been done in years past, I would like to take just a moment to tell you a little bit about the SJC's Pro Bono Committee. The justices of the Supreme Judicial Court created the committee in 1999. Since that time, the committee has been chaired by prominent pro bono individuals, most recently Sue Finnegan, Kathy McGrath, and Elizabeth Ennin. The goal of the committee is to promote pro bono legal services throughout the Commonwealth. In pursuit of that goal, we engage in the following activities. Like today, we recognize and celebrate outstanding pro bono service. We encourage law students and new lawyers to develop a habit of engaging in pro bono service. We learn as much as we can about pro bono legal services in Massachusetts so that we may improve these services over time. And we engage with members of the bar so that we can learn how to better support their pro bono efforts. There are typically 15 or so members of the pro bono committee. One member is an SJC justice. We were honored this past year to have had Justice Elspeth Seifer on the committee. We are truly grateful for her time and expertise. The director of the Access to Justice Commission also sits ex officio on the committee. Carolyn Goodwin, the current director, has been a member of the committee for nearly 4 years. Also on the committee sits the incomparable Chip Finney, a powerhouse. Chip, who hopefully all of you know, is Deputy Legal Counsel to the Supreme Judicial Court and the key organizer behind today's event. I often say that Chip is my unofficial co-chair because he refuses to take on that title. But actually, I think I need to sit down with Chief Justice Budd and make that my key agenda item for my last year of my tenure to get Chip the recognition he so well deserves. Chip does so much, not just for this committee, but for so many others at the court. He is an incredible advocate for justice and a wonderful colleague of us all. Thank you, Chip. The remaining members are appointed by the justices of the Supreme Judicial Court and typically serve 2 to 3 year terms. It's a significant commitment, and I would like to recognize and thank our committee members now. Felicia Ellsworth, Victoria Gottney, Carolyn Goodwin, and Carlos Teuscher, who serve on our Lawyers in Training subcommittee. Dick Bauer, Alana Gelfman, Kim Parr, and Gordon Shaw, who are on our Rules subcommittee. And Nikisha Davidson, Shanika Davis, Geraldine Gruvis-Pizarro, Jamil Moore, Seth Orkand, and Courtney Pitta of the Outreach, Communications, and Diversity Subcommittee. The committee seeks new members each year and especially prioritizes geographical, institutional, population, and practice area diversity. We currently have 2 upcoming openings to fill. So I urge any Massachusetts attorneys in the audience to consider applying for membership themselves or nominating others for this wonderful committee. You can find out more about how to do so on the court's website or by contacting me or Chip following today's event. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Kimberly Parr, a longstanding member of the Supreme Judicial Court's Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services, who will recognize the attorneys, law students, and legal organizations who qualified for this year's Pro Bono Honor Roll. Kim is an Assistant Attorney General and was formerly a litigation associate at Mintz and a law clerk for Justice Robert Cordy here at the Supreme Judicial Court. She has been a member of the Pro Bono Committee for 6 years, and during that time, she has played a leading role in the creation and development of the Pro Bono Honor Roll for individual attorneys. So it is particularly appropriate for her to speak about this year's honor roll. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm pleased to join you today to recognize the wonderful work of all the attorneys and law students and law firms and other legal organizations who qualified for the SJC Pro Bono Honor Roll this year. The Honor Roll was first established in 2010 at the urging of then Associate Justice Ralph Gantz soon after he joined the Supreme Judicial Court. In its first few years, the Honor Roll recognized only law firms, solo practitioners, and other legal organizations who met certain criteria for average hours of pro bono work and firm policy supporting pro bono service. Over the years, the Pro Bono Honor Roll has expanded so that it now includes law students who complete at least 50 hours of pro bono service during their law school careers. And more recently in 2020, the Honor Roll added 2 new categories for individual attorneys. The Honor Roll for attorneys who complete at least 50 hours of pro bono service during the preceding calendar year, and the High Honor Roll for attorneys who completed at least 100 hours of pro bono service during the prior calendar year. We have had hundreds of law students and lawyers join the Honor Roll over the years, and we're proud to say that 2022 was no exception. Altogether, nearly 500 individual attorneys qualify for the Honor Roll, and of those, 233 attorneys provided at least 50 hours of pro bono legal services to qualify for honors, and 252 attorneys provided at least 100 hours of pro bono legal services to qualify for high honors. The collective impact of that work is enormous. Approximately 37,000 hours of pro bono service delivered in calendar year 2022 by Massachusetts attorneys. Among law students, we've had the highest number of honor roll participants ever. 352 law students qualified for the honor roll by providing at least 50 hours over their law school careers. And altogether, these students have donated over 17,000 hours of pro bono service. That's just remarkable. Now, there's one downside to such strong participation by lawyers and law students in Massachusetts, and that's the volume of participants is too high to name everybody individually. We're not going to do that to you all today. We will, however, add the honorees' names to a webpage for the Pro Bono Honor Roll, and the court's public information office will be emailing you each a certificate recognizing your great service, so thank you. Turning now to the Pro Bono Honor Roll for legal organizations. To obtain this special recognition, and I have to admit, though I've worked a great deal on the honor roll, these are some complicated rubrics for the folks on this list get a lot of credit for not only doing the work and also figuring out that they did the work and getting on the honor roll. So these organizations must certify that they treat pro bono hours the same as billable time or its equivalent, and that in calendar year 2022, their Massachusetts attorneys provided an average of 50 hours of pro bono service per attorney, or that 75% of their attorneys provided at least 25 hours of pro bono service. As I said, this is a stringent standard, and we salute the following 6 organizations for meeting it this past year: Beveridge and Diamond, Brown Rudnick, Deckert, Foley Hoag, the Right of Immigration Institute, and Wilmer Hale. So to all the participants on this year's honor roll, the law students, the individual attorneys, the legal organizations, and the lawyers who help those organizations achieve this recognition by contributing hours or by setting firm policy, the Pro Bono Committee thanks you. What you're doing not only advances the cause of equal access to justice, but it undoubtedly has real impacts on real people. So in this moment, call to mind the clients you helped, the communities you served, the legal issues you conquered or did your best to conquer through your pro bono service. Think about what you gave and what you gained. New friends, new skills, professional connections, confidence. Take that into your next case, your next project, and talk to your colleagues about it so that next year's honor roll is even longer than this year's. So on behalf of the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services, thank you for your dedication and your commitment, your willingness to help in this way, alongside the demands of your everyday work and school, family, and other obligations, and the tremendous benefits you provide to your clients and to the Commonwealth. If we can have a round of applause for the honor roll participants. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce the Honorable Kimberly S. Budd, Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court, to present this year's Adams Pro Bono Publico Awards. Chief Justice Budd has had a distinguished career that has included positions as an Assistant United States Attorney, as University Attorney at Harvard, and as Director of the Community Values Program at Harvard Business School. In 2009, she was appointed to the Superior Court by Governor Deval Patrick, and in 2016, she was appointed to the Supreme Judicial Court by Governor Charlie Baker. During her service as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court, she also served as the court's liaison to the Pro Bono Committee, and she presided over the annual Adams Award ceremonies for several years. In 2020, she became the 38th Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court and had to step back from working with our committee due to some of her other responsibilities. But we are fortunate to have her return today to present this year's Adams Awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. I appreciate everything that you and the other members of the Pro Bono Committee have done to make this event possible. I also want to extend my thanks as well to our court staff, including Chip Finney, Blanca Tosado, Erica Gully Santiago, Ellen Coyne, and Vanessa Scott, for all of the hard work that you've done to make sure that this event goes off without a hitch. I want to extend a welcome to all of you this afternoon. On behalf of my colleagues, it's wonderful to have you here at the Supreme Judicial Court. This is one of the best events that we have in this court. And I think by the time this is over, you will agree with me. I want to also add my congratulations to everyone who qualified for this year's Pro Bono Honor Roll. Your pro bono service plays a critical role in our legal system. Although the legislature has generously increased funding for civil legal aid in recent years, the organizations who get the aid still have to turn away over half, at least about half of the people who contact them seeking legal representation. By providing free legal assistance to those who can't afford counsel, you've helped to close this justice gap. It's now my great pleasure to present this year's Adams Pro Bono Publico Awards to the recipients selected by the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services. Named for John Adams and John Quincy Adams, who both exemplified pro bono service at its finest during their legal careers, the Adams Awards recognize lawyers, law students, law firms, and other legal organizations who have demonstrated exceptional commitment to providing volunteer legal services for those who can't afford counsel. As you will hear, this year's Adams Awards recipients have stepped up to make a difference through their pro bono efforts in many different types of legal matters. But there's a common theme that runs through much of their work. Each, in their own way, they have fought for families and children in need, whether it was to protect them from homelessness or political persecution, or advocating for their fair treatment. Over the years, many Adams Award winners have been litigators who fought for the rights of their pro bono clients in the courtroom. Our first Adams Award recipient today, however, offers a great example of how business lawyers can also be pro bono leaders by volunteering their transactional skills to serve people and organizations who might not otherwise be able to afford legal counsel. Devin Cohen is a partner at Ropes & Gray, where he counsels healthcare organizations and private equity sponsors on transactional and regulatory matters. Last year, however, he used his expertise to protect 125 families who were facing homelessness. These families were being sheltered by Casa Nueva Vida, but the Commonwealth had declined to renew that organization's contract due to self-dealing by its executive director. While it makes sense that the state took that step, what did that mean for the families who depended on Casa Nueva Vida for shelter? Fortunately, another nonprofit housing provider, Heading Home, volunteered to step in. Heading Home was willing not only to provide housing for the displaced families, but also to take on members of Casa Nueva Vida's staff as well. But making that transition happen, and happen quickly, was no easy task. Attorney Cohen's leadership in completing this complicated multi-party transaction within a tight time frame was essential. He guided the Ropes & Gray team that worked with Heading Home to negotiate transaction agreements, IP licenses, real estate leases, and contract expansion with the state regulators and the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. Danielle Ferrier, the CEO of Heading Home, describes Attorney Cohen's work as nothing shy of stunning. She writes that he played a critical role in negotiating endless corporate details during a very tenuous and demanding process. The safekeeping of 125 families and 77 staff was made possible due largely to his efforts, without which these families would have become homeless and staff jobless. Most importantly, she writes, Attorney Cohen brought a level of humanity to the project that was moving, as he always kept the legal team focused on the fact that the work was to benefit families who otherwise would be homeless. Altogether, Attorney Cohen dedicated more than 250 pro bono hours to this important work for Heading Home. But this was only one of the many projects to which he devoted more than 1,300 pro bono hours over the last 4 years. He's volunteered time to a medical legal partnership that Ropes established with Dot House Health, a community health center in Dorchester, to provide legal services to patients and their families in areas such as housing and education. He guided the legal formation of Purple Health Foundation, a nonprofit that treats women who have experienced gender-based violence. He handled licensing agreements for EDI Institute, a nonprofit organization that promotes recovery and emotional resilience. And he provided pro bono legal services to Prognosis, a public benefit organization focused on early dementia screening in at-risk populations. Attorney Devin Cohen is an inspiring example of what a dedicated and generous business lawyer can do to better the lives of others through pro bono service. For his extraordinary efforts in this work, the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is pleased to provide Devin Cohen with one of this year's Adams Pro Bono Publico Awards. Come on up.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming me today. I'm humbled and honored to receive this award alongside Scott, Doreen, and Sarah. And your dedication to pro bono sets an amazing precedent for our profession and continues to exemplify how lawyers can really use their training to do good. It's our obligation as attorneys to really do as much as we can. And so I thank you also, the Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee, Chief Justice Budd, for continuing to shine a light on the projects that truly make a difference with the Pro Bono Publico Awards. I'm equally thrilled, and I'm sorry this is a little duplicative of Justice Budd, that this award has brought more awareness to a number of organizations, including a medical legal partnership with Dorchester Community Center Dot House to assist with Medicaid appeals, Social Security matters, and asylum, and to Prognosis, which is focused really on early dementia screening in high-risk populations. But I'd like to use the rest of the time here to speak a bit about Heading Home very specifically. Because when I first met Danielle Ferrier, the CEO of Heading Home, and her team in spring of last year, about Casa Nueva Vida's former CEO's indictment and the Commonwealth's decision to pull CNV's funding for ongoing shelter for over 120 families, I was scared. While understandable, given the complicated history, I feared that these families would lose shelter and air conditioning in the middle of the summer, that the staff that had dedicated years to this organization would be left holding the bag because of an executive misconduct, and that CNV's mission of providing essential shelter to a primarily Spanish-speaking community could be lost because of that. But the entire Heading Home organization remained optimistic and focused on migrating CNV's operations, housing resources to benefit the families that they had historically worked for. Come July 1st of last year, so approximately 2 to 3 months, that spirit really did pay off. 125 families formerly sheltered by CNV became housed by a CNV division of Heading Home. Various government stakeholders came to the table to facilitate a transfer, preserve funding, and ensure that no families were displaced. But it was the Heading Home team, again, selflessly dedicated to eliminating homelessness, that made all of that happen behind the curtain, and they are the team that deserve the acclaim here. And then, of course, there are the lawyers. It was a privilege to work closely with Mintz Levin, and particularly Rebecca Lee and Smriti Chowdhury, to facilitate a number of real estate matters and guide us through the real estate intricacies of this transaction. The Ropes team, including Jeff Katz, Ann Ogilby, Mike McGrath, Kayla Sylvia, and A.T. Desta, couldn't have asked for a better partner to showcase our joint commitments to pro bono and ensuring access to legal services for those who need it most. And it's that team of lawyers at Ropes and Gray that I personally want to thank for the long hours, late nights, and commitment to Heading Home the communities they serve. I could not be prouder to be a part of that team and show how healthcare and corporate attorneys can use their problem-solving and negotiation skills in new ways quite outside of our comfort zones in the name of good. So thank you again.
Our next Adams Award recipient, Scott O'Frias, has shown an incredible commitment to pro bono work in a variety of different areas. Since joining K&L Gates as a litigation associate in 2017, he has devoted an impressive amount of time to pro bono service, 444 hours in 2022, and 1,360 hours over the past 5 years. Attorney O'Frias' dedication to representing refugees in asylum cases and other immigration matters has resulted in life-changing outcomes for his clients. Recently, he represented a father and his four-year-old daughter who were fleeing persecution in Venezuela. They had waited at the US-Mexico border for more than a year as part of the migrant protection protocols. Attorney O'Frias handled the asylum hearing, collaborating with colleagues from multiple K&L Gates offices. As a result, the client and his young daughter were granted asylum, which will allow them to build a new life in the United States. His client says, "Scott's careful preparation and support changed my life and the lives of my wife and daughter." Before the asylum hearing, Scott spoke with me several times and answered all of my questions. Although I was nervous, when I got to court, I knew that I had Scott's support, and I was confident that Scott would present my story well to the judge. After winning the hearing, I felt that all the sacrifice I made from the moment I left Venezuela was worth it, thanks to Scott's determination, dedication, security, and effort. Attorney O'Frias also volunteers his time to assist survivors of human trafficking through the Freedom Network USA's Survivor Reentry Project. He helps to conduct intakes and screen human trafficking survivors to determine whether they're eligible for criminal record relief, such as expungement or sealing trafficking-related criminal records. This work includes talking with survivors, reviewing their criminal records, and assessing whether they may be eligible for relief under applicable laws. Attorney O'Frias was also involved in bringing on and helping to train another lawyer in his office to join in this work. Attorney O'Frias' expansive pro bono work also includes advocating for veterans before the U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans' claims, as well as representing veterans with housing issues. He's also worked on a number of other pro bono projects, including assisting domestic violence victims in obtaining protected citizenship status, researching legislation related to juvenile solitary confinement, screening cases for the Innocence Project, and protecting Indigenous peoples' heritage. The time and effort that Attorney O'Frias has put into his pro bono work have made an incredible difference for those he represents. In nominating him for this award, Amy Groff, a partner at K&L Gates and vice chair of the firm-wide pro bono committee, wrote that Scott has stepped up when help was needed and demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to serving those of limited means and guiding them through difficult situations. On behalf of the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services, we thank Attorney O'Frias for his dedication and congratulate him on being one of this year's Adams Award recipients.
Man, Justice Bud took a lot of what I was going to say. I want to say thank you, everyone. It's an honor to receive this award today. This award is a testament to the legal community's commitment to serving individuals from underserved communities and advocating for the people most deserving of advocacy. This award is also a celebration of the remarkable stories of resilience and strength that I've had the privilege to witness over the course of the past several years. Additionally, I want to congratulate Devin, Doreen, and Sarah on their work. I mean, 120 families, Devin, that's awesome. Doreen, Innocence Project, we need more people in the Innocence Project. And Sarah, we need law students like you advocating. I'm awed by all of you. I also want to thank the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Pro Bono Committee for this award, as well as my family, colleagues, and mentors who are constantly encouraging me and prodding me and poking a little bit just to provide as many legal services as possible to those who need it most. I'm also grateful for K&L Gates for giving me the opportunity to pursue to pursue any kind of pro bono opportunity that comes this way. I'll shoot an email being like, hey, I think this is a good idea. And they're like, sure, go for it. And I'm really appreciative of all the resources that they provide to achieve the successful outcomes for all the clients. Over the course of the years, I've had, as Chief Justice Budd said, several different opportunities to represent a lot of different clients in a lot of different areas. Each client has given me a better understanding of the resilience and strength of the human condition. I'll just take a quick moment to highlight some of these cases that I've worked on the last few years. As Justice Budd said, I worked with a lot with veterans. I've had the privilege to advocate for veterans who have dedicated their lives to protecting our country. In one instance, we had a Vietnam veteran who's lived in Boston his entire life come to our firm and go, Scott, I'm getting kicked out of my house. What am I supposed to do? So we took the case and we were able to successfully secure housing for him, and he still lives in the same apartment today for the past 35 years. And he goes, thank you. And one of the most remarkable things is, no matter what, he doesn't forget any holiday. We'll get a Christmas card, a Thanksgiving card, Easter card. It's just, it's those type of things that really make a difference. Additionally, our K&L Gates team was able to successfully ensure that a Vietnam veteran was also able to, entitled to the benefits he deserved for his service time. Additionally, I've been very inspired by the courage exhibited through survivors of domestic violence and human and sex trafficking. These individuals and survivors have endured unimaginable horrors that I'll spare you guys the details today. They're just, I mean, there's kids, so I don't really want to go a little too much into detail. But it was an honor to stand by their sides and ensure that all their legal needs were met with safety and support as they escaped their path and forged a new, hopeful path forward. In fact, just last week, we received results from one of the survivors and received good news that they've obtained permanent legal status in the United States, which is very exciting. And finally, as Justice Budd said, I had the opportunity to argue an asylum case for an individual who was repeatedly targeted by the oppressive government in his home country of Venezuela and politically persecuted. He was scared, he felt trapped, and was helpless. He finally hit his breaking point when he returned home one day to a note on his door stating that they were gonna kill him, kidnap his wife and his infant daughter. This was the final straw, and he fled the country. When he arrived at the border, he was denied entry and waited there with his infant daughter for 2 years. As a father of 2 young daughters, his story hit particularly close to my heart, and I'm in constant awe of his resilience and determination to protect his family from harm and to ensure that his family has a brighter future. I like to think that Girthkin is now a model of the American dream. He has legal status, he's a father, a husband, and he works at the happiest place on earth, Disney World. Lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank these individuals who have allowed me to be a small part in achieving a better life forward. More often than not, we find that through these cases that there's one small single legal roadblock keeping individuals trapped in the poverty cycle. And by addressing this one legal issue, whether it be simply contesting a parking ticket, that alone can be enough to give a new lease on life for these individuals and open doors to break free of this cycle. Thank you again.
The Pro Bono Committee's next Adams Award goes to Doreen Rochelle, a litigation partner in the Boston office of Sidley Austin, for her extraordinary leadership and pro bono efforts to advance educational, racial, and economic equity in the Commonwealth. For more than 2 years, Attorney Rochelle has served as lead pro bono counsel for the Boston branch of the NAACP and other interveners seeking to defend the Boston Public Schools' interim COVID-19 admissions policy for the city's most selective schools, the Boston Latin School, the Boston Latin Academy, and the John D. O'Brien School of Math and Science. The temporary admissions policy was developed during the pandemic with the goal of creating a more equitable process for admitting a new class of students into these schools while the admissions test was suspended. Seats were allocated by grades and student zip codes, giving areas with lower family median income a higher priority. When the policy was changed in the federal district court, Attorney Rochelle represented the NAACP and the other interveners seeking to defend it. Thanks in part to her advocacy, The policy was upheld by the district court. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit denied a request for an emergency injunction to stop it. As a result, the new policy went forward, leading to a more diverse student population at exam schools that better reflect the city's population. From one school year to the next, enrollment of economically disadvantaged students increased from 35% to 43%. The percentage of Black students increased from 13% to 23%, and the percentage of Latinx students increased from 21% to 23%. And while the policy was only temporary, the implications of the court rulings in this case, which is currently on appeal before the First Circuit, could be significant for future admissions. Tanisha Sullivan, president of the Boston NAACP, told the Pro Bono Committee that for Attorney Rochelle, this case is not just another pro bono project. It's part of her life's work. During the past 2+ years that this case has been in active litigation, she has displayed immense determination, grit, and perseverance. I am continuously impressed by her deep and abiding dedication and zeal for making the world a better place. But the Boston Public Schools case was just one of Attorney Rochelle's many important pro bono projects over the last several years. While serving as president of the Massachusetts Black Lawyers Association, she created a multi-week training program for Black clergy in the greater Boston area to educate them about legal issues that members of their congregations might face. In another project, she worked with the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts to develop a racially just policing model policy for college campuses in Massachusetts. She also advises the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights on education equity issues. And she serves as pro bono counsel for the Innocence Project, where she helps the organization screen cases of individuals of color who may have been wrongfully convicted. And she's currently leading a confidential, high-profile murder appeal. Not surprisingly, the volume of her pro bono hours is extraordinary, including 332 hours in 2022 alone. In addition, Attorney Rochelle has dedicated much of her legal career to public service and volunteer work. After graduating from Howard University School of Law, she clerked at the Supreme Judicial Court for then Justice Roderick Ireland, and later served as an assistant U.S. attorney. She was a member of the Judicial Nominating Commission for 6 years. She's held numerous leadership positions with both the MBLA and the National Bar Association, and has been active with both the Boston Bar Association and the Women's Bar Association. And she's been involved in a wide range of education organizations, from her local PTO to the Board of Trustees of Barnard College. In sum, Attorney Rochelle is the epitome of a lawyer who uses her legal talents and skills not only to win cases for her clients, but to improve our society as a whole. And for her extraordinary efforts, the SJC Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is pleased to bestow upon her one of this year's Adams Pro Bono Publico Awards.
I am so glad that I wrote out my remarks because it was very touching. So good afternoon, Chief Justice Budd. Thank you so much. To the members of the SJC Committee on Pro Bono, thank you, and to all of my co-honorees. All amazing work that we're doing together to improve the society. It's amazing to be honored with all of you. I decided today to give my remarks on what propels me to do pro bono work, because as you just heard, I do a lot, I do all of it. And it is because I have the inability to say no. And my closest friends in this courtroom can attest to that. So from a very young age, I had just a strong desire to help others, and that really led me to aspire to be the first lawyer in my family and to go to law school. Attending Howard University School of Law, it provided a strong foundation that propelled me to think really critically, what does it really mean to be a social engineer? And I delved into my legal studies and I grabbed a hold of every single opportunity imaginable during law school to give back to the community, including becoming part of the inaugural Civil Rights Clinic. When I graduated from Howard, it was because of my collective experience there that I made a personal commitment to actively being a social engineer. My commitment to pro bono matters as a lawyer started when I was a baby lawyer at Bingham McCutcheon many years ago, when I handled complex asylum cases. And one case in particular that I want to mention because it really helped to solidify my foundation and my passion for helping others. And that was representing and being involved in a high-profile case representing 2 handfuls of plaintiffs who allegedly tested positive on a hair drug test in the late 90s. And they were subsequently terminated for that positive test. If there ever was a moment or an experience that ignited my passion and commitment to pro bonos, that was definitely it. Why? Because I experienced with them the challenges and the stigma of failing a hair drug test, and the challenges that they had financially, reputationally, with moving on with their life. And I really want to thank Raquel Webster in particular, who grabbed a hold of me, she's here today, and said, you gotta be a part of this case. And that case was life-changing for me because I was able to really see what it meant to be a listener, to be an advocate, to really defend and fight for people who didn't ordinarily have access or an avenue for a voice and an advocate. So that was really what propelled me to commit myself to giving back in this way. As I have progressed professionally, so has my passion for pro bono work. And it has also made me redefine where my interest and my primary focus lies. And that really is education equity. For the last 10 years, I have intentionally and almost exclusively focused on social justice in connection with education equity. And that passion started really from a personal experience in my household where I was placed in a situation where I had to advocate on behalf of my children within Newton Public Schools to ensure that there was equitable educational opportunities and that my children had access to the tools that they needed. And because of that experience, which was hard for our family, I vowed that I would be a voice, a support structure for people, for families who lack the resources and lack the opportunities to be a voice for their children who need educational supports. So with that, and my opportunity to exclusively really focus on educational equity, I've had some great opportunities, one with working with the ACLU on creating a policy on policing on college campuses as a direct effort to address racial profiling on college campuses, and it's being used as a national model. That was amazing work. And I also have been fortunate to work very closely with the NAACP and Tanisha Sullivan, along with many other organizations, to promote economic, geographic, and racial diversity, and providing avenues for equitable opportunities for students in Boston to the prestigious exam schools here. In collaboration with Mintz Levin, GBLS, the Lawyers for Civil Rights, we made some strides with our case, and both at the district court level and at the First Circuit. And I will continue to be hopeful and very optimistic that we'll be getting a good decision very soon from the First Circuit. And I'm going to continue to be optimistic and hopeful, maybe not realistic, that for a hopeful win at the Supreme Court level that really allows secondary school districts to adopt mechanisms to ensure that their student bodies, similar to the exam schools here in Boston, have geographic, economic, and racial diversity. I would be remiss by not saying thank you to Sidley Austin. They have just been very supportive of me and my very overflowing plate of pro bono work. Without the resources that they give me, I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do with some really great community partners. I also want to thank my friends who are here today and who are looking at the stream for always supporting me and uplifting me. I've got to thank my family. Alex, Addison, they're here with me today. Jordan and Barry, they are hopefully watching online. And I really just want to say thank you because I work nights, weekends, all hours of the day, and they're the ones who really sacrifice. And it's because of them and their patience and understanding that I'm able to do this good work. And last but not least, I want to send a special thank you to my life partner, who is hopefully watching the stream as well, for surrounding me, being my rock, my best friend, and encouraging me and uplifting me, Barry Fields. And just thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for this award. And I want to thank you in advance for continuing to support pro bono efforts. And I really want to encourage each of you to consider doing this amazing work so that you too can be a change agent in someone's life. Thank you.
Our final Adams Award recipient is Sarah Sam Jogu, a student at Western New England University School of Law. During her law school career, Ms. Sam Jogu has established herself as a tireless and creative advocate for women and families and a pro bono leader among her peers. Beginning in her first year of law school, Ms. Sam Jogu has played a crucial role in developing and implementing the innovative Family Justice Project, a program supervised and supported by Western New England Center for Social Justice. The project seeks to study and understand the influence of race and the impact of racial disparities on outcomes for families involved in the Massachusetts care and protection system. Care and protection cases typically arise when the Department of Children and Families initiates a court proceeding in response to allegations of abuse and/or neglect of children by their parents or other caretakers. Depending on the case outcome, parents may lose custody of their children, and the children may be placed in foster care. Working with two local attorneys who initially proposed the project, Ms. Sam Jogu drafted and conducted a survey of more than 100 lawyers who represent individuals involved in care and protection proceedings. She then analyzed the results of the survey, identifying areas where implicit bias or cultural misunderstanding may affect outcomes. She also spoke with the lawyers she surveyed about potential improvements to address these issues. Ms. Sam Jogu shared her analysis with the participants in the Family Justice Project, and then helped craft a plan to raise awareness of the issues of implicit bias and cultural misunderstanding in the broader legal community. Next, she presented her findings to the first justice of the local juvenile court, who in turn encouraged her to share them at a bench bar meeting in March 2022. These exchanges began an important dialogue on these issues. Phase 2 of the project, in which Ms. Sam Jogu is still engaged, involves continuing efforts to increase awareness in the legal community and develop best practices to be shared as broadly as possible going forward. This work will benefit not only those in Ms. Sam Jogu's local community, but may also serve as a model across the state and even the nation. Ms. Sam Jogu has demonstrated remarkable pro bono service during her time at Western New England School of Law, completing over 100 hours of pro bono service while juggling other law school responsibilities like law review and a national moot court competition, all while raising 2 young children. Her commitment to promoting equity and her exceptional ability to advocate for change as a law student are truly remarkable. So, in recognition of her extraordinary dedication to pro bono service, the Supreme Judicial Court's Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services is pleased to present this Adams Pro Bono Publico Award to Sarah Sam Jogu, with thanks for all that she has done.
Thank you so much to Chief Justice Budd and the Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services for this award. I'm so honored to be recognized alongside attorneys Cohen, Ofrias, and Rashal, and their amazing and really inspiring work. I'm also so grateful to the Western New England Center for Social Justice and attorneys Ariel Clemmer, Callie Walsh, and Joy Piper for allowing me to contribute to this important work, and to attorney Keisha Jones and law student Andrea Davis for joining us as the project grew. And of course, to my family for their constant support and encouragement. I'm a part-time 4L student at Western New England School of Law, and have been involved with my pro bono work, the Family Justice Project, seeking equity for DCF-involved families since my 1L year. My interest in family law and social justice made this project a priority for me. Access to opportunity and justice can vary based on one's resources and identity, and unfortunately, the Commonwealth's care and protection system is no exception. Inspired by America's post-George Floyd reckoning that drove increased scrutiny of race's role in our society, 2 attorneys in Western Mass reached out to the Center for Social Justice with an idea to examine how the experiences of DCF-involved families might vary based on race. We formed the Family Justice Project with the goals of understanding how race can influence outcomes, amplifying these families' stories to raise awareness and drive alignment behind the need for change, and ultimately, researching other jurisdictions' innovative best practices for mitigating these disparities that could be implemented here at home. In phase 1 of the project, I drafted and conducted a survey of local attorneys representing care and protections clients. I co-called nearly 100 attorneys in the area, convincing more than 1/3 of them to share their candid perspectives on whether they believed race influenced the outcomes for their clients, and if so, how. I heard stories of implicit bias, stories of children removed from their parents, shaped by a lack of cultural understanding, stories of families impacted by generational involvement with the legal system that limited the possibility of kinship placement for those children. Despite the challenging circumstances, I heard attorneys pointing out the ways the system could do better. I analyzed the responses, identifying problem spots where bias enters along the path from an initial report to DCF all the way through to court involvement. After sharing these results with Justice Paradise, I presented the findings at a bench bar meeting to drive awareness and appetite for change. The work of the Family Justice Project is not yet complete. In phase 2, we are researching best practices that other jurisdictions have successfully employed to limit racial bias. While there are some bright spots, this also led to the realization that this work is still quite innovative, and no one jurisdiction within the US seems to have looked at the end-to-end process in the way that we hope to. Still, we continue bringing together the most promising solutions already tested, and some we hope to test ourselves. I'm truly grateful to receive this prestigious award and hope that the increased visibility that it brings will encourage more students and attorneys to join in this important work. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm truly humbled and inspired by our Adams Award recipients and grateful for the service of all those whose names appear on this year's Pro Bono Honor Roll. We would not have an Adams Award program were it not for the people in the community who take time out of their very busy schedules to put together nomination packets. We would like to especially thank all of our nominators for their willingness to help us identify, recognize, and celebrate exceptional pro bono service. As I'm sure you all know, events like this don't happen without lots of people doing a great deal of work behind the scenes. I would like to thank the following individuals whose hard work made today possible. I'd like to thank the members of the Supreme Judicial Court staff who helped maintain the Pro Bono Honor Roll and prepare for today's ceremony, including Administrative and Program Coordinator Blanca Tosado and Erica Goli Santiago, Ellen Coyne, and Vanessa Scott in the Public Information Office. Without their support, it would be impossible for us to recognize the hundreds of attorneys and law students who participate in the Pro Bono Honor Roll each year, or to present the Adams Awards in this ceremony. I would also like to thank Suffolk University for making it possible to webcast today's event, along with Jeff Travers, First Deputy CIO in the Judicial Information Services Department. Thank you also to the Supreme Judicial Court's court officers for your assistance with today's program as well. In addition, I want to express my appreciation to all the members of the Pro Bono Committee for their service to our committee and their engagement in selecting this year's Adams Award winners and their help in preparing for today's event. In particular, I would like to thank Kim Parr, who is stepping down from the committee after serving for 2 terms, 6 years, as an energetic and engaged member. We have deeply appreciated all of your contributions to the committee, Kim. And I would like to thank Justice Elspeth Seifer, who has served as the Supreme Judicial Court's liaison for the last 2.5 years. Unfortunately, Justice Seifer has not been able to join us today, and she will be retiring from the court in January. But if you're watching online, Justice Seifer, please know that we appreciated your engagement during this time. I would like to thank Chief Justice Budd for taking the time to be here today in spite of her many other responsibilities and to present the Adams Awards. Chief Justice Budd, your support means so much. Thank you. And last but not least, I'd like to again thank Chip Finney. I'm very grateful for Chip's thoughtful and wise counsel, his seemingly endless positivity and grace, and his support of me and the entire committee. Now, before we go, I have to talk to you about pro bono. Maybe, hopefully, you've been inspired by what you've heard today. And if so, I'm going to encourage all of you online and in person to seek out opportunities for how you might provide pro bono legal services for the many residents of Massachusetts who need your help. It can be hard to find a pro bono case, something that our committee is actively working to try to remedy. And so here's 3 easy ways that you can do pro bono in a way that fits your schedule. First, you can find a nonprofit or free legal services organization whose work aligns with your interests and beliefs, and simply ask them if they need help. Many do, but they may not have the time to post about such opportunities online or announce the need. So your inquiry might just save someone's home or custody agreement or debt matter or any of the number of things we heard about today. It really doesn't hurt to ask. Next, you can find a compilation of pro bono opportunities on the now updated website, massprobono.org. That's massprobono.org. There you will find a wide range of opportunities in areas such as civil law, consumer law, disability rights, family law, housing, immigration, and public benefits law. And last but not least, I recommend that you check with your local bar association. Across the state, amazing pro bono initiatives are happening near you. Our bar associations are plugged in and even running several pro bono opportunities themselves. What better way to give back to your community than through your local association? In closing, I'd like to extend my congratulations again to all of this year's members of the Honor Roll and to our impressive 2023 Adams Award recipients. Thank you all so much for joining us today.